Surinji, and I'm
Okay.
back with another episode of interviews on my channel Raw and Real. And today I have with me Ron Gordon today, and I will be having this interview with him. And thank you, Ron, for giving me this opportunity and letting me have this interview with you. And I must start this interview by asking you, like, when did you start lifting, and
Thank you.
when
Thank
did you
you.
decide to be a competitive athlete, and just talk about a bit about your early life.
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So, I've been physically active my whole life. Okay. I started off as a basketball player back in Michigan, and when I got to college, I started getting into lifting weights, more free weights. So I would say I've always been involved in some type of exercise and weight training, but it wasn't until 2010 where I actually decided to compete. I did my first show in San Diego, California.
Okay, and who is your coach right now? And tell me something about your competitive career.
That competition went well. I won my class, and it was a very, very small show. And for the next 3 years, I was unable to compete for various reasons, mostly injuries. And I decided to start bodybuilding again in 2013. That's when I started competing in NPC shows, which is the amateur version, or the amateur portion, I should say, of the Ifbb. And from 2013 um, into 2018, I competed as an amateur until I became a professional.
And who is your coach right now? Who is your coach right now?
Right now, I'm being coached by Abdullah. I'm coached by Abdullah of the Camel Crew. Obviously, Abdullah is well renowned for his coaching ability. He is coaching the current Mr. Olympia, Brandon Curry, and he's the man over in Kuwait. He runs Oxygen, and obviously uh, he's working hand in hand with the man who runs the show, Bader Budai, who also has taken me under his wings, and they believe in me. So those are my coaches. Well, Abdullah's my coach, and obviously Bader oversees the Camel Crew.
So, Ron, what do you think? Like, what are some of the missteps or issues that you see with the young bodybuilders and the sport in general?
Okay. Um, so, in my opinion, some of the common mistakes that young bodybuilders make um, is that they're very attracted to uh, glamorous aspects of what they think bodybuilding will bring them. Whether it's winning shows, money, cars, girls, fame, Instagram following, and all of those things. And don't get me wrong, there have been many bodybuilders who have led the way in taking a bodybuilding career and turning it into financial gain. Obviously, the biggest example will be Arnold Schwarzenegger. However, what the young bodybuilders have to understand is that the work came first, and then the winning came with the work, and then they were able to monopolize their success for financial gain. I find now that guys are more interested in projecting an image than they actually are in working on their physique. Um, I also feel as though you have a lot of guys who are not interested in sculpting their body in the appropriate way as it pertains to the time that it takes to really promote a professional physique. It takes a great deal of time. It takes a great deal of discipline and commitment, and I feel like a lot of guys are not interested in that, or they're truly ignorant to what it takes. I think guys are really relying on what they see on YouTube and Instagram, and they don't really have some of the older veterans actually in the gym with them, teaching them the small little details of how to perform an exercise, how to train your back, the level of intensity you need to bring to the gym in order to get professional legs, um, things of that nature. And lastly, I think the mentality needs to change with regards to bodybuilders. I feel as though I talk to a lot of guys who use the word balance as it pertains to bodybuilding, and I have nothing against a person seeking balance in their life. However, an individual has to understand that if you're seeking balance in your life and another competitor, he is not seeking balance and his total focus is on bodybuilding, he's going to beat you. So you just have to understand that. You can seek balance all you want, but in order to be the best, there has to be a level of obsession that you attach yourself to in order to win. It's not going to be 12 months out of the year, but definitely during the time you're, prepping for a contest, there has to be a desperation that's associated with what you're doing, and it's not for everyone. And in fact, it's only for a very, very small percentage of people. And you have to be honest with yourself if you're that type of individual that can handle it and put things aside in order for a goal.
One thing I was most impressed about when I saw his profile, he has such a beautiful physique. Like not only the upper body, but how well the lower body is balanced. That's what I love the most about Ron when I saw his profile. And I will put down the link to his Instagram. Do check it out. So Ron, one of the things that I want to ask you is like, what do you think is the meaning of mass monster? What makes a true mass monster?
What makes what? Say again?
People, this concept of like what a mass monster should be. Like we have seen different versions of it. Like in the 90s, there used to be Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman. Right now, we have like a different kind of physique. So, what do you actually think about what makes a mass monster? Like, what does that look?
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That's a question of hot debate. Um, I would tell a competitor who's looking to compete not to focus so much on trying to look like someone, but to focus on the best that their body and their genetic makeup will produce. And we've seen many examples of bodybuilding champions with completely different physiques who are able to maximize what they're able to do. Now, if you ask me as a personal level, what I like to look at, what I think is the perfect physique at certain times, obviously, you can't go wrong with Flex Wheeler. You can't go wrong with Chris Cormier. You can't go wrong with Ronnie Coleman. All three guys, they possess a tremendous amount of size, great conditioning, symmetry, professionalism, and they were all great posers. And I don't want to continue to go down the list because, I'll always be leaving somebody that was amazing off the list. You obviously have Dorian Yates, who took bodybuilding to another level in the mid-'90s. And he's someone I look up to with regards to training style and technique and the mentality that you have to have in the gym. He's definitely somebody I look up to in that regard. But yeah, if I had to pick one bodybuilder at one moment in time or one day, I would say Flex Wheeler at the Grand Prix I saw in the early 2000s is probably the best physique I've seen.
One of the bodybuilders that I look up to means in the 90s was Dorian Yates because of his, as you said, the mentality. Like he was a dominant bodybuilder. He used to come and collect his trophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What it takes to be a bodybuilder.
What it takes? Ah, okay. So your question is what it takes to be a successful bodybuilder. So I have to be honest with you. Like, obviously, you have to have a physical makeup, and you have to have genetics in order to become a professional bodybuilder. However, what a lot of people don't understand is you don't really know what your particular genetics have in store for you until you put forth a substantial amount of work. If you take two guys and they're sitting on a couch for years, and then you ask both of them to stand up and show you what their genetics produced, you would have no idea because they're both sitting on the couch. They have to work for a certain period of time to see how their body would change and adapt to training and nutrition. So although genetics is very important to becoming a professional, I caution people who ring the bell of I have bad genetics too early without actually putting forth the work. And what I mean by that is I don't mean going to the gym for 6 months, casually training, eating good 70% of the time, and you're like, oh, man, I don't look like Phil Heath. That's not what I mean. I basically mean you have to live like the bodybuilder you aspire to be. You have to train hard. You have to eat right. You have to do everything right. And then when you get the result, you'll know if you have what it takes, if your genetics have in store. So if you fall into the category of someone who does have the genetic makeup to get big enough, to be symmetrical enough to become a bodybuilder, now in order for you to actually be competitive at that level, I think that one of the things that you have to have is you got to have an open mind, and you have to be very receptive to things. And one of the things that I've done is I study all different types and versions of training, whether it's Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath, Mountain Dog, Chris Cormier. The list goes on. Everyone has something to offer, and everybody's training style may not translate 100% to what works for you. But if you take that 10% from Dorian Yates and 10% from Ronnie Coleman and go down the line, you can adapt a training program that will continually give you great results. That's my opinion. So that's the first thing. The mentality you have to have with regards to your level of intensity is you have to be close to being crazy, a controlled aggression at a moment's notice, because you're in a gym and you're picking up objects that are doing nothing to you. They're not bothering you. So you have to have a crazy mentality to go in and put yourself through a level of torment physically towards objects that are not bothering. It's completely different than if you're in a boxing ring and you're defending yourself and you're avoiding someone that's coming at you. You have to channel something very odd and strange within your makeup in order to get the most out of yourself physically when something is not approaching you or harming you. And that's something that psychologically everybody can't do. From a dieting standpoint, you have to get rid of your instincts. Your instincts will lie to you every time when it comes to your diet. You have to rely on what you see and what works. Being full as a bodybuilder is something that sometimes you have to ignore because you may have to eat more. Being hungry as a bodybuilder may be something you have to ignore because you may be cutting down for a show. So you have to turn your instincts off as it pertains to what your body's telling you you should and shouldn't do sometimes when it comes to diet, and rely totally on what you see in the mirror and how your body is performing. How your body is performing will tell you what to eat, not how you feel on the inside. Because if I relied on what my body's telling me from the inside, right now, I'm getting ready for a show. My body's telling me to go eat cheeseburgers and cake right now. That's what my body wants. But I can't listen to my body because my body is not in control. I am. So you have to have a certain level of discipline and commitment. I think people use the word motivation, but motivation is fleeting. Motivation is a feeling. That's how you feel at that moment. I've been very motivated to go to the gym. And then when I get to the gym and I park, the motivation has gone. So what do I do now? Do I go back home? No, I don't. You have to have that discipline to follow through on what you said you were going to do after the emotion of when you said it has gone. That's what it takes. And again, going back to the obsessive personality, the desire, and I think above all else, you have to have a scary level of consistency that is completely content with getting 1% better one time out of the year. And you have to understand that although that scares a lot of people with regards to how small the number is, 1% better over the course of 10 years is 10%. 15 years is 10%, and on and on. And I think that's what people just have to accept, that bodybuilding as a sport and developing the physique at the highest level, it takes years and years of working on your craft.
So, Ron, what do you find like what is the most beautiful thing about being a bodybuilder? What is the most beautiful thing about being a bodybuilder?
Oh, wow. I think to answer your question, you said the word beautiful, which I think is great. I think the beautiful thing about being a bodybuilder, especially at a professional level where people actually look up to you, it's not the fame. It's not like people knowing who you are or how much you can lift and all that. It's actually the ability to be a living, walking example for someone else of something that they can do if they're willing to put in the work. And I think that's the amazing thing about what I'm able to do and able to be recognized for every day, is that, I'm someone who gets a pat on the back or, words of adulation because I work hard, I'm very disciplined, and, although that may not seem like a lot to someone else, to me, someone telling me that you're the hardest working, most disciplined guy that I've met means a lot more to me than someone saying you have great genetics. Because no one can control their genetics. But if you tell me that, man, every time you come in the gym, you kill it, I've never seen you break diet, you show up on time, willing to work all the time, that means a lot to me, because those are the things I can control. So when I wake up in the morning, guess what? I'm much more motivated to control those aspects of my life again.
This thing like about genetics, I know like genetics is something like most people are given, like, but everyone doesn't want to work hard. If you don't work hard and you just have the genetics, you're gonna not reach somewhere. That's the thing. You can have the best genetics in the world,
Yeah.
but you will not reach somewhere if you don't have that ability to work hard.
You're absolutely right.
So, Ron, like,
Yeah.
what's your approach to diet and training when it comes to you?
Say it again. Last part again.
What's your approach to diet and training?
Oh, okay. So big picture, my approach to diet and training is whatever it takes. That's the big picture. Okay. And when I say whatever it takes, that applies to me and everyone else, because no two people are exactly the same. Okay. The one thing I can say about training is that everybody needs to train with a high level of intensity, and everyone needs to be very, very close and in touch with true muscle failure is. I find that there are a lot of people who work out, but they don't train. Okay. Working out is what you do physically to make yourself feel good psychologically. That's what working out is. Okay. Training is what you do physically to make yourself better physically. You may not like it. It may not feel good. It may be psychologically demoralizing, but training makes you better physically. Working out makes you feel better psychologically. Oh, I worked out today. I did my thing. It was a great workout. I saw some girls in the gym. I saw my old friends. That's working out. Okay. Training is when you sit in the car 5 minutes before you're supposed to train, and you're psychologically getting your mind prepared for what you have to do to your body in order to get a result. So I think in a nutshell, my approach that applies to everyone when it comes to training is train with a high level of intensity and be very in touch with what true muscle failure is. As it pertains to diet, again, you have to do whatever it takes. And whatever it takes is different for different people. This is where genetics come in, because your hard work for you may mean that you have to eat a tremendous amount of food, which is very, very difficult. A lot of guys think that they eat a lot because they remember that one time they were really hungry and they ate 2 pizzas. That's not eating a lot. Eating a lot is when you eat a lot at 8 a.m. and then you come back at 10 a.m. and do the same thing, and you come back at noon and do the same thing, and you do that all day when you're not hungry. That's eating a lot. That's psychologically telling yourself, I need to eat regardless of if you're hungry. That's much more difficult to me than dieting down. So, again, blanket statement, you just have to do whatever it takes, and you have to be willing to put yourself and your body through a level of punishment and discomfort. And, it goes back to what I was saying before is that, when it comes to training and diet, there is an aspect that plays into your instincts because you may be doing an exercise in a certain way that will put you in its position to be injured. So you do have to listen to your instincts to a degree, but I don't mean that to say that when your muscles start getting pumped up or they're on fire or things hurt and your instincts tell you the set is over, that's not the instinct that you listen to. That's not what I'm referring to. You have to turn the voice off, and again, you have to go to that dark place that tells you to keep going.
So, Ron, who do you look up to or as an inspiration when it comes to bodybuilding? Who do you look up to?
Who do I look up to? Wow, so many people. Well, I want to tell you who I look up to with regards to people I met first and people I know. So, my first trainer is named P.D. Devers, and he died a few years ago. I always looked up to him. He was a great poser. He was the first professional bodybuilder I ever met, and he was my very first trainer. Okay, so I looked up to him. I look up to Stan McQuay, who's a great bodybuilder in Southern California. He's trained a host of great competitors. He's trained himself, obviously, a very successful bodybuilder. And he runs a very successful coaching tree. I look up to Dave Kalick, who's taken me under his wing, and he's always been able to counsel me and consult with me on my own physique. He's known me for years. I look up to James Juge. He was someone that reached out to me. He saw the level of talent that I had, and within a very short period of time, he helped me to become a professional. I obviously look up to my coach, Abdullah. I showed up in Kuwait, and he took the time to find me, and he believed in me after seeing me for that long. And we clicked, and we talk all the time, and he's been willing to put all the resources that he has into me, which the most important the most important part of that is the actual knowledge and attention. It's not the supplements and all the things that people think. Sometimes it's just a keen eye and somebody knowing what to expect from you. So I look up to Abdullah. As far as bodybuilders and the legends, the guys that I look up to, I look up to Chris Cormier, who I think is the most complete bodybuilder of all time. And when I say complete, I don't mean the best. I don't mean the most accomplished. What I mean by complete is there's no flaw to him as a bodybuilder. Okay, he had an incredible structure. He had incredible size. He had incredible condition. He was an amazing poser, and he was consistent for years and years and years. So I would say he's the most complete. Obviously, the best bodybuilder is Ronnie Coleman. He possessed the wow factor. He was huge. He was grainy. He was unbeatable. Everybody knows that. Ronnie was unbeatable. We already mentioned Flex Wheeler, who he's a Sultan of Symmetry. He had the most beautiful physique from several angles. I look up to Dorian Yates because he proved to me, and he should prove to any bodybuilder, that just because you don't have the best genetics, or maybe you had an injury, there's still a way that you can psychologically get the best out of your physique and become a champion. And I think looking at him as an example should give any bodybuilder some level of confidence that they have a chance if they're willing to work hard. Yeah, and it's just, wow, man, there's so many people I look up to when it comes to bodybuilding. I look up to a guy like Derek Farnsworth, who's in San Diego, who, he may not be a household name when it comes to bodybuilding circles, but, that guy's been grinding for years, and he's going to be doing the Tampa show next week just with me, and he's over 50 years old, and he's still hitting it in the gym. And he's not talking about, oh, I'm doing this and I'm 50. He's just saying, I'm a bodybuilder. Age doesn't matter, and you have to appreciate that, because it's the truth. At the end of the day, the mind controls what the body does, and he's proof. I look up to Richard Williams. He's also in San Diego. He's someone that he runs a very successful coaching tree. Again, people locally know exactly who he is, but he's not someone that, has reached that apex of popularity, which I think is a little bit overrated. And you also can't go wrong with Phil Heath. I mean, Phil Heath is a little bit older than me, so I grew up like most people. Phil Heath was the champion from the time I was in my 20s. Phil Heath was the champion before we had Instagram and all those things. So you have a whole generation of people who only knew Phil Heath as the champion because their introduction into bodybuilding came with Instagram. So you can't leave out Phil Heath, and of course you can't leave out Dexter Jackson or Jay Cutler, and of course you can't leave out Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger put a face on bodybuilding, and it carried over. He made the appearance of muscle and being muscular fun and acceptable and something that people wanted to do. Well, yeah, I mean, no matter how long I talk, I'm going to be leaving out somebody, but I just love the sport. I love anybody that takes a positive attitude and a hard work ethic into the gym, whether it's a guy who's never competed before, an amateur, or Ronnie Coleman. It doesn't matter. I learned so much from everybody, but those are the legends that I look up to.
Yeah, so you talked about Tampa, so I want to ask you a question like, what is your goal in terms of competing? Like, are you going to compete in any show this year?
Yes, so I'll be competing in Tampa, Florida, next Saturday. This will be my second professional show. I'm very excited about it. Obviously, this year has been very difficult on everyone, not just bodybuilding, but it's also affected bodybuilding. A number of shows have been canceled, rescheduled, or they've had several aspects changed. The venues. We still don't really know if we're going to be able to have an audience and things like that. So it's really challenging to us as bodybuilders to maintain our focus and prepare for a show when we know that there are going to probably be some changes at the last minute. I've also signed up to do the California Pro Show. At this point right now, I have no idea where the show is going to be because obviously we're all dealing with, the pandemic.
So all the best, Ron, for your Tampa Pro show that is coming up. All the best for your Tampa Pro show that is coming up. And this was a beautiful interview I had with Ron Gordon. And this interview, like, I got so much message from it, and it was so motivating. So I love this interview, Ron, and thank you for giving your valuable time and letting me have this interview. So that was it. Like, share and subscribe this video, and also follow Ron Gordon. I will put up his Instagram down below. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure as well. I loved it. And after Tampa, let's sit down and talk about the show, okay? Okay, brother. Okay, so, well, hopefully I have some decent results for you, and we can talk about things from a positive note. But, yeah, so I appreciate it. I know it's about 11 o'clock where you are, so I'm going to let you get some sleep. I'm going to go get some food, and we'll talk soon,
Actually,
okay?
it's not 11, it is 12:30 at night, right? 12, it's 12 right now, 12.
Well, man, I really appreciate you staying up for the interview. Thank you.